Hello and welcome to ATF TV. I'm Christine Zhou reporting from London. Today we have with us Mr. Kingsmill Bond, who is a new energy strategist at Carbon Tracker. Carbon Tracker is a London-based not-for-profit think tank that researches the impact of climate change on financial markets. In a recent article for Asia Times Financial, Kingsmill argued that the end is near for hydrocarbons. And he joins us now to talk about the factors that might lead to the end to the oil era. Welcome to ATF TV, Kingsmill.
Thank you, Christine. Nice to be here.
Thank you. So, Kingsmill, please tell us, are we soon going to be driving around in electric vehicles? Has the age of the gas guzzler really passed?
So what we did in this analysis is we looked at what was going to happen over the course of this decade as battery prices continue to fall very quickly. And what happens is that you very quickly get to purchase price parity in the early 2020s, and then you're going to have electric vehicles being cheaper than conventional cars. So the argument we then made, we said, look, what is highly likely to happen as the price continues to fall, and as we saw with solar panels and as we saw with mobile phones, is that countries which don't have an enormous oil-based transportation system are much more likely to choose an electricity-based transportation system because it's cheaper, it's cleaner, it's faster, and it's easier.
What are the main drives behind the shift from gasoline vehicles to electric ones?
So the principal driver is the very rapid fall in the prices of batteries. So in 2010, when electric vehicles are kind of a rich man's toy, as they say, the price of batteries was $1,000 per kilowatt hour. This year, it's going to be 130. And by 2022, it's going to be about 100. 100 is important because at 100, you have purchase price parity between an electric vehicle and a petrol or diesel-based powered vehicle. And so the principal driver of change is consequently technology. However, on top of that, you have a very powerful political driver of change for countries that import their oils. So, for example, in China, 70% of oil is imported at the moment. In India, it's 80% of oil that's imported. Under business as usual, that will go to 80 and 90%. These are countries which are spending 2% or more of GDP on oil imports. And suddenly, as a result of this technology shift, governments will have new opportunities to encourage people to have electricity-based transport rather than oil-based transportation. So it's a political driver as well as a technological shift.
Can you tell us about renewable energy and the power infrastructure needed to support electric vehicles?
So the first point to be stressed is that electric vehicles are much more efficient than conventional oil and diesel-based vehicles. So they use 4 times less energy. Therefore, the scale of the problem is not as enormous as it might appear. And indeed, in the IEA's SDS scenario, which is the electrification scenario, they calculate that the global demand for electricity for transportation in 2030, for example, would only be 2% of all electricity. So the first point is that this is a manageable problem. You do need bigger grids, you do need more infrastructure in the electricity sector, but that's happening anyway in many of these markets. The second question then is, well, you need local grid edge infrastructure so that you and I can charge our electric vehicles, for example. Data from the International Council on Clean Transportation suggests that the cost of that infrastructure is around $500 per car, and the cost of public infrastructure is about another $300 per car. So $800 for this grid edge infrastructure. That's about the same as the price every single year to buy and import petrol. So it does require infrastructure. There is cost involved, but we would suggest it's likely to be a lower cost than the cost of building out oil-based infrastructure.
What about recycling millions of large batteries? What are the problems and solutions for that?
So it's a very good issue, and it's one of the many problems of the energy transition that will need to be solved. New industries need to be built up to recycle these batteries. I believe it's highly likely that there will be industries built up to do so for two reasons. First of all, because there'll be huge amounts of new batteries materializing. And secondly, because the batteries themselves have valuable metals and materials in them, and it will be worthwhile recycling that.
Which countries are leading the electric vehicle revolution?
So it's very interesting when you look at the leaders of the electric vehicle revolution. They split really into two big groups. So on the one hand, you've got the very wealthy countries such as Norway, which has got a government which is committed to the electric vehicle transition and has been able to subsidize the rollout of these technologies. And on the other hand, you have the Chinese government, which is a series of reasons for embracing the electrification of energy. And they have been able to roll out electric vehicles in a number of subsectors where there are specific advantages. So, for example, in two-wheelers, with a 61% market share now for electric two-wheelers, and in the buses sector, with a 59% market share in China. And I think the point simply is that where those two sectors have led the way, as the prices continue to fall, we're likely to see a similar story in the electrification of electric vehicles, and then eventually electric cars, and then eventually electric trucks as well.
The EV market wasn't untouched by the COVID-19 pandemic. In the long term, will the sector be able to recuperate?
So it's been very interesting. If you look, for example, at the statistics in Europe, electric vehicles have continued to gain market share even during the pandemic. But actually, the more important issue, in fact, is the continued fall in the prices of batteries. And because companies are still building out new gigafactories for the production of batteries, and because our technologists and scientists are still coming up with new solutions, there's no indication that the very rapid fall in the cost of battery technologies is going to stop. And indeed, as your readers or as your listeners will appreciate, even during the pandemic, we had Tesla coming out at their battery day and talking about the very likely soon manifestation of $100 per kilowatt hour battery. So that's the key driver. I would suggest that the COVID pandemic has not had a dramatic damaging impact consequently on the rollout of electric vehicle technology.
Thank you, Kingsmill. It does sound like there is a big drive for electric vehicles again. We would love to have you back to keep us in the loop.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for the opportunity. And I think this is a fantastic chance actually for Asia to leapfrog to these superior technologies, and therefore also to avoid the imports of the 28 million barrels of oil a day, which is what Asia is currently importing.
That's good news. Thank you all for watching. To read more on this article, check out asiatimesfinancial.com for the world's best news on Asian markets, economies, and more. I'm Christine Zhou reporting for ATF TV from London.